And we're back at DMZ America, the podcast. Uh, well, we're going to have another segment here. I'm Scott Stantis, and I'm coming to you from, the right.
And I'm Ted Rall, and I'm coming to you from, the left. I mean, I'm
Which may-
expecting, when is it going to be DMZ, the yoga studio?
Namaste.
DMZ, the municipal airport.
No, I think we have to go smaller, like the convenience store.
the coffee hut. Have you been like in Pacific Northwest, like in Washington, Oregon? They have I mean, I know where the Pacific Northwest is.
Yes,
but,
yeah.
they have little huts. Remember, like they had the photo developing huts.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, sure.
A
photo mat.
Photo mat, exactly. And
Oh
so
God.
there's like little photo mat style huts. In fact, they may be former photo mats for real. And you can just pull up and get a cup of awesome Joe from your convenience of your car, because you're in the Pacific Northwest where it's always overcast. So you need coffee just to not die of being overcast.
We were in Salt Lake City. My daughter-in-law, my oldest son, is going to doing a postdoc position there at the University of Utah. Go Utes. And they have a bunch of those, Ted, a bunch of these
really?
little shacks. Oh yeah. Drive-through shacks. Yeah. I guess it's sort of like, okay, it's coffee.
The ones in Oregon and Washington, holy shit, they're so good.
Really? What makes good
coffee? Yeah, you got to
go
in a circle and come back around,
Don't forget COVID has robbed me of that pleasure.
Oh God. Are you really still? You're still like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
You're as tasteless in your buds as you are in your politics. I had to do
that. Well played.
Thank you.
Yeah. I cannot taste coffee, smell or taste coffee.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's like one of my favorite things. Oh no. I still no. There's a list. It's a weird.
Oh, so wait, can you smell shit?
No.
So you cannot smell poop. There's a lot of jobs that are now looking a lot more appealing to you.
Well, I go hiking a lot.
Go work at Surf Pro.
When you go hiking a lot, they have outhouses. They have porta potties that haven't been changed since the Carter administration.
Right.
And I can go into them, and all I smell is something like they use some kind of deodorizer or something that's sweet smelling, and I can smell that. But everything else, I'm just like, I could be in there all day. That's my superpower. Oh yeah, I couldn't be luckier. The one thing that killed me is a friend of mine owns a restaurant here in Birmingham called the Fish Market, and shockingly, they serve fish and seafood. And he had the best lobster bisque I've ever had in my entire life, Ted. The best.
And you could taste that.
They brought me a cup of it. I ordered a cup of it. It tasted like a big spoonful of salt. I could not taste the lobster at all. Now that kills me because I heart hard lobster, but I can't taste it anymore. You want to hear something weird on the list too? I was out having a coffee with Janine and a friend of ours, and I guess because I'm part girl, I ordered the lavender latte. Shut up, Ted.
I don't even know what to say. Oh my God. Okay.
So anyway, I tasted it. I go, wow, they didn't put any lavender in this. I handed it to Janine and my friend, and they both tasted it, and they both said, oh my God, there's a ton of lavender in here. Wow. So I can't taste that. A pair de moi.
All right. Well, that's so this is partly about refamiliarizing yourself with your masculinity.
Yes, I think it's just, I still drink coffee. I still drink a lot of coffee because I like coffee, but I like the warmth. Okay. Quick story. I'm showing Ted when you guys, if you want to go look at the video, you can. Here's my coffee mug.
That's a nice looking mug, I got to say.
Isn't that cute? But the inside of it is dark blue, almost black. I was one morning, I'm getting my coffee. I go to the coffee maker. I pour the coffee into this mug, and I come back to my office or my studio. I'm sitting here. I'm happy as hell. I'm going through paperwork, going through emails, getting it done, Ted, getting it done.
Just like
Janine wakes up, and Janine in the kitchen, I hear Janine go, "Oh man!" I go, "What?" And she had forgotten to put the coffee in the coffee maker. I was drinking hot water. And had no idea. I was completely and utterly happy. Just drinking warm water. So yeah, don't get the COVID,
we're showing
kids.
Off mugs. My mug's not as pretty as yours, but mine is for the defunct Daytonian Hotel.
Oh, there was a hotel called the Daytonian.
Yeah, it was fancy. It was a good place to stay. Yeah.
Was it? What made it so?
Yeah. This is my favorite part. It has the hotline number to call.
There's a Daytonian hotline. What would you get if you called that hotline back in the day?
Sex? Who knows? I have no idea.
That's what
I never called.
That was those hot Daytona.
No, this was a
Dayton
hotel.
hooker.
It was a big deal in the 70s, and so like who fucking knows what you could get back then? Crank.
Anyway, so as some of you may know who listen to this podcast, I live here in Birmingham, Alabama, well, suburb of Birmingham, Alabama. But the mayor, Woodfin, has just proposed that a pilot program of guaranteed income, it was for single mothers in the Birmingham area, that it's working well enough that he wants to make it permanent and wants to set an example for the rest of the country that if the federal government's not, his quote, his words, if the federal government's not willing to step up, we are. But here's the thing, Ted. I mean, okay, so, I can talk about the guaranteed income. And don't forget, this has been proposed. Adam Smith, yes, that's right, the god of all of us who believe in, let's say, fair economics. Adam Smith proposed a guaranteed income back in the 18th century. So this is not something that comes strictly from the left. Richard Nixon
do you
proposed
remember what
it.
his explanation was, or why?
Yes, it was to help younger people become more entrepreneurial. It was geared almost exclusively towards giving. It was essentially startup capital,
like feeder capital.
Yeah, it was like if you're young and you're just getting married, because they got married at 13 back then. You could, if you had an idea for a business or something, or we were just everybody in the community got X amount of money. Now, what makes this interesting, Ted, is A, it's geared only for single mothers in the city of Birmingham, but two, it's 385.
Single fathers are left out, huh?
Yeah, once again,
Sexist asshole.
Yeah, but it's $385 a month.
Huh.
Which, by the way,
it's not an income, that's a tip.
Yeah, well, especially nowadays. But in this environment, one of the poorest states in the union, that would probably make a difference.
Oh, no, for sure.
But okay, let's talk about a guaranteed income. Now, is this an issue you've thought a lot about?
It is. I first started thinking. I'm sure, like we may have both started thinking about it from the same thing. Although I'm just supposing. When Alaska built the pipeline, the Trans-Alaska pipeline, I remember being really surprised that that every single citizen of Alaska was receiving an annual income from the pipeline. I want to say it was like $10,000 per year. I might be wrong. I know that number has dropped. I don't know if that's because of some kind of factor that I'm not aware of. But anyway, the point is, it was thousands of dollars per year per Alaskan citizen. And I remember one of the justifications that I heard was that that the cost of living is very high there. And they really want to try to encourage people to live there because the population is so sparse. They don't want everyone to leave. And so it was kind of I'm not really sure why Alaska, why not other places, but I just thought that was kind of cool. I remember just thinking, well, it would be really nice to sort of cushion the harsh underside of capitalism. The idea that, you can be working hard and then you get your boss just decides to fire you for some reason, and then you're suddenly out on the street, and you lose everything. It's nice to think that, if you don't get unemployment benefits, that there's some, you have a cushion that, like, you're still going to get something. You're not going to be rich, but you'll get something. And we kind of saw that during the COVID-19 pandemic,
right? Yeah,
when former President Trump and then Biden, but I believe Trump was even more generous than Biden. Biden was starting to ramp it down, but Trump sent out checks. And during that period, you could say, well, Americans would go off on like a Hunter Biden-like bender, but they didn't. They paid off their credit cards. They were frugal. They built up savings accounts went up to record highs, and it really stimulated the economy, and also gave people a cushion that they've been surviving on now for several years. Most of that money is gone now, but I think it's like, look, can Mali have a guaranteed basic income? No, because they don't have the natural resources. They're not a rich country, but a wealthy country like the United States that has so much money that it can send hundreds of billions of dollars to foreign countries to lose wars, seems to me like it could take some money instead and give that as a guaranteed basic income so that people don't end up sleeping in their cars, assuming they still have a car, every time there's an economic downturn. I think it's a good idea.
Well, couple that, and why a conservative like myself would even be talking about it. We do have a problem with the workforce, and the workforce that's not going back to work, doesn't wanna, isn't going to do it.
And will not be welcome because of artificial intelligence and automation.
Well, here's the thing, and that's the number one killer of jobs in the United States, folks. You may not know this because it's not being reported, but automation is killing jobs at a far faster rate than trade, the Chinese, anybody. Though it's killing
illegal
jobs.
Immigration.
I think I've mentioned this before, and I love being 64 because I begin roughly half my sentences with, have I said this already? But it bears repeating. I was on a plane, sat next to a guy, his job, we started talking about what we did, and his job was to sell heavy equipment to manufacturing plants. I go, what's changed during the course of the flight? What's changed in your business over the years? He said, the most startling thing is he'll drive up at dusk or night to a factory he knows is running at 100%. And there's one light on in the entire factory. And it's where the two guys who, if something breaks down, they go and fix it. Or more to the point, they probably call a guy who comes and fixes it. Those jobs are going away. Now we're talking about things, artificial intelligence. So we're talking about programming jobs are going to go away. Self-driving cars, meaning that taxis, Uber, that's going away. Bus drivers those jobs are going away. Truck driver jobs are going away. All of those are good jobs, or used to be, where you could be a dude or a gal and support a family on those incomes. Those jobs, GONE. You're talking about, Ted, a potential permanent unemployment rate worldwide of between 24 and 30%.
Oh, yeah.
Now, do you just say, there's two ways to approach this. One is fuck them, let them find a job, train yourself in something that'll make you money, which would make sense if there was something to make money at.
Sure.
I've just described a world where there's precious few things where you can. And so how do you manage that? Do you say, okay, we're going to we guarantee everyone an apartment? I mean, you've seen some, like, I'm trying to think, The Fifth Element, where everyone has like this shitty apartment. It's a 1-room apartment, but it has, you push a button, it gives you food. There's a place for you to go to the bathroom and shower. And there are opportunities to make a little extra money. But I mean, are we happy with that? Are we happy with a purely laissez-faire economy that really, winnows out the weak and they will be starving? Like, what was that? Spielberg just did a movie version of it, Ready Player One, where it really was people lived in, the shipping containers. They just stacked them like high rises, and that's where people lived. Or are we going to manage this in a more civilized way and by the way, creating consumers, which by the way, means the economy still moves forward, and there are still opportunities.
And honestly, look, even if you don't view it as a compassion issue, even if you're rich or upper middle class still in the new world, somehow you've lucked out. I think, would you rather live in a society without a permanent underclass that you have to protect yourself from, and live in a gated community and pay armed guards to protect you from being kidnapped or killed, or robbed? Or would you, obviously it's better to have, for social and political stability and calm, to pay people not to work. Look, there's two ways to look at this. We could look at this as terrifying because we live in a fear-based society. And capitalism thrives on fear, because it's that fear of, if I don't get up in the morning and kick ass and do something, and with a little luck and hard work, get some money, I'll be out on the street. Or we could look at this as a fucking opportunity to enjoy like this utopian vision that was like articulated in shows like the first Star Trek, right? Where it was like, we now have super efficient technology. We don't need everyone to work. So we now have more people who have time. They have leisure time. They have more time to explore themselves and indulge the arts or travel or whatever, enrich themselves in other ways. Like, I think we are not looking at it the correct way. We don't need jobs. What we need is money. and we don't really need money. What we really need is a way to live. So if we have an economy that now no longer requires as many jobs, then maybe we have to just say like, okay, well, it's okay for people not to work. Or we could also say, we'll have everybody, I mean, we could solve the problem by just reducing all work weeks by half and just say like, okay, well, everyone still can have a job. You just won't, it'll just be like, you won't be working as long hours. But the bottom line is we don't need to be working as much. We should be like, fucking look at us, man. Like 10,000 years of recorded history, and we get to live for the first time in human history in a society where we don't really all have to work. And many of us will want to work. We enjoy it. It's part of our nature. We don't, but like for those of us who aren't that into it, it's cool if they don't work. I mean, I don't look down on people who don't want to work. There's nothing wrong with being lazy. Not everyone has to be a workaholic like you and I are.
I think you have to contribute, and
sure, I agree with that.
And I'm not sure what guise that takes, but I am, like I said, I'm looking at this seriously, and there could be, like I said, my conservative friends, you're just talking about socialism. I go, we're talking about something, that an economic model that is considerably different than the one we're living in right now. Now, is that because I want that to happen? No. Is it because
it's inevitable.
It's inevitable. And so the question remains, how do you manage it? And do you manage it by saying, fuck people who can't, who
That's
aren't
a stupid
in
way
position
to look at it. It's just stupid. It's
it is.
Whenever it's sort of analogous to what we were talking about in the first segment about, the Israelis, they threw up their hands at a certain point and said, we can't deal with these Palestinians. We can't talk to them. So we're going to pen them up and throw away the key and forget all about them. Well, you can't do that. I mean, it doesn't work. Forget about whether it's right or not. It just doesn't work. They'll get out and they'll cause harm. So that's the same thing here. You can sit there and say, well, we should just not focus on this. But the truth is, like you said, Scott, this is the reality. This is not tomorrow. This is now. And so we do need, and I don't view it as a capitalist versus socialist issue. I view it more as I think within a capitalist construct, it's like, this is about value added and productivity. We've achieved extraordinary productivity with these machines, and we no longer need to produce or work as hard to produce the same amount of things that we did, because we now have machines that can do it for us. Well, that's great. What are we gonna do? Artificially force people to go and twiddle their thumbs, pretend to be working just to show that they're not lazy? I mean,
well, look at China.
It's obsolete thinking.
Do you remember when Nixon went to China and they had the people in Tiananmen Square with brooms to sweep away the snow? Then the technology to have snowblowers existed in 1972. They could have had that. They did it because if they got snowblowers,
kept people working.
Yeah, it would have kept people working. So do we deny ourselves? And we're not the kind of culture that's going to deny ourselves the luxury of the advances in technology. We're just not going to do it.
And why should we?
Well, for the reasons that Mao did not, get the snowblowers, because he knew that by getting the snowblowers, you're going to put 20 old Chinese women who swept the snow away. They weren't going to be able to work. Mm-hmm. There was going to be nothing for them to do.
That would cause social and political instability.
Well, and that's the other thing is does a guaranteed, and you're more attuned to that level of economics than I am, but by guaranteeing an economic income, does that mean you're going to have more or less civil unrest? That is, let's assume, let's throw a number out right now. This happens today, and the people get, I was going to say it used to be $30,000, but that doesn't get you a hell of a lot nowadays. That doesn't even pay for a fucking apartment, unfortunately, in most places. Mm-hmm. But let's say it's 40,000 a year.
Okay.
It's still not very generous, but it's something, and everybody gets it. Ted Rall, who makes that sweet cartoon / radio / opinion writing money. Me, who makes that cartooning money. I mean, we're all incredibly wealthy.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's my biggest problem is, where the fuck do I put it all?
Yeah. Same here. It's just how many yachts can we buy, Ted?
I mean,
we're about to find. We're still trying to find out.
I'm like John McCain. I don't even know how many.
but would this lead to unrest in terms of idle hands? And this, we'll leave it at this but I'm curious what you think.
In what way could it cause? I'm really having trouble. And so obviously, okay. I'm going to tell you my answer in that, like, I don't see how it could cause a problem. What kind of problem could it cause?
I think people who are idle, you would be, there will be a large segment, and there'll be more because there won't be anything to. But they'll be idle anyway. Right. Well, but now they can actually. You and I both know revolutions don't happen when things are bad. Revolutions happen when things were bad, but they're getting better. So my suspicion is, being America, and we don't address issues unless there's some kind of weird ass critical need to address it.
Well, it will cause some slacking for sure. I mean, there will be some layabouts who don't want to do anything. I suspect that for most people, I suspect that when it all settles out, though, it'll be a net positive, just because you're not going to have the desperation of people who have nothing to lose, which is really, really dangerous. You're not going to have that disposable thing. You will have people who just smoke weed all the time and hang out in like a hut, and they're totally fine with that. But those people are harmless. And I also think what's interesting is there will be a lot of people. This will not affect their entrepreneurial drive at all. They'll be like, okay, I'm good with, thank you, Mr. Government. I appreciate my $40,000 a year universal basic income, but I also want to be a multimillionaire. And so I'm going to work hard and start a business. And I'll use the $40,000 maybe to help me get started, maybe, or at least while I'm working. I wouldn't be a cartoonist if not for unemployment. When I was in 1995, I was working at a company called the Spectrum Group in San Francisco. I had this ridiculous job where basically I was a financial analyst, and they didn't have they had no work for me to do because they were so dysfunctional. All the bosses, they were all competing with each other and they hated each other. And so I was an assistant, and if they gave me anything to do, they were worried that like one of their other competitors would see the thing that I was working on for them, and then like they would use it against them. So I literally am sitting on twiddling my thumbs, and they fired me. They laid me off, and I went on unemployment. The story is actually more interesting than that, but I don't want to get distracted in the weeds. And so I was on unemployment under the state of California for 6 months. And during that 6 months, I suddenly had my whole day clear. So I was looking for a new job, and at the same time, and going for interviews. At the same time, I was going after freelance illustration gigs and cartooning gigs like crazy, because I had the free time and I wanted to work, and why not? Anyway, about 5 months into it, I was doing my finances, and I realized, holy shit, I don't really have time to look for a job. I'm like I'm working so hard as a cartoonist. I got to see how much I'm making. And it was like, oh, I make as much as I was making before. I guess I'm now a professional cartoonist. And I haven't had a day job since 1995. My point is that 6 months of full time of, modest $405 a week unemployment, in Berkeley, which, I had a cheap apartment. It got me off the ground. And like, I just imagine a lot of other people would do that sort of thing. A lot of people started businesses during COVID from their COVID.
Yeah.
So I think it would really encourage entrepreneurship. Your biggest problem is always, I want to start a business. Well, you need capital. That's always your biggest problem.
Well, yeah. Well, you need capital to survive, just to pay all the stuff.
Yeah.
It also begs this goes on to another discussion. We will have it another time because we're kind of running a little over time. Yeah. But I really want to have with you, given this, should water and power be free as well?
Oh, 100%. Of course. Okay. All the basic necessities of life should be free.
Okay.
But we'll get into that. All right.
We'll discuss later. So where can we see all things Ted?
You could go to, you could listen to the final countdown with me and Angie Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon on Radio Sputnik.
That's Eastern time.
But you can listen to the archived ones on Rumble, so you don't have to listen to it in real time. Yeah, my cartoons are every Saturday at whowhatwhy.org. You can find my cartoons and columns Rall.com. And Scott, where can we find all Stantisian stuff?
Stantoid. Zoids. Anyway, go to gocomics.com/Scott Stantis, one word. Go to gocomics.com/Prickly City to see my comic strip. Go to chicagotribune.com/opinion and see a gallery of the work I do for them. And beginning in 2024, back again, Scott Stantis at the Dallas Morning News. I'll be drawing for them on a regular basis. Woo! And
as
also
Dallas goes, so does Southern Dallas.
It's hard to argue with that. But also Ted and I are both, as you mentioned earlier, on Center Clip, which is our mini podcast, 30 seconds, no longer than 5 minutes. And Ted just posted one I have to go listen to right now. I just got them. I got the, the alert. So I'm going to go listen to it. Ted, until next time.
All right, Scott, always a pleasure.
Peace.
Bye, everyone.